Welcome to the Especially for Athletes podcast, where we explore essential principles that empower athletes to learn life's most valuable lessons through sports.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Especially for Athletes podcast. I'm Dustin Smith. I'm here with Shad Martin as usual, and we've got our special guest on today, Coach Jaicee Roden of Ridgeline High School. Jaicee, I'm going to give you a second to tell us a little bit more about you before you ended up being a volleyball coach at Ridgeline, one of the top athletic programs in many sports in the state of Utah. And you come from a very athletic and successful family bloodline of athletes. Jaicee, thank you for joining us. Tell us a little bit about yourself, and then we'll fire off some questions at you.
Sure. I was born and raised in Cache Valley. My maiden name is Caressa, so formerly known as Jaicee Caressa. I'm the middle of two boys. Jake and Alex are my brothers, and I'm the perfect and favorite child between the two of them. And I grew up playing sports. I grew up on a football field. I'm kind of the Remember the Titans little girl, always on the football field. And I played volleyball, basketball, track and field. I begged if I could play football when I was young, and my parents said no. But volleyball was my first sport. I learned to love basketball. I also come from a basketball line. My mom's a Haas, so we always had our kids' conference is what my grandpa Ralph called it. And kids' conference always included a basketball camp with my grandpa Ralph and Uncle Marty. So I grew up doing basketball camps and ended up doing track and field. Went on to play college volleyball at UVU. And when I graduated, I accepted my first head coaching position at Corner Canyon in 2013. And from there have been a head coach ever since. So I've been at 3 different schools: Corner Canyon, Mountain View, and now at Ridgeline.
Awesome. Well, for those of you that don't know, the Haas family and the Caressa family, but her mom is a Haas. We've had Tyler Haas on our show before. His dad, Marty Haas, and brother TJ are legends in BYU basketball. Tyler is one of the greatest, and so is really all 3 of them. And then the Haas brothers, Jaicee's brothers, are both very successful football players. BYU and Portland State, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and both very good football players. But the best athlete of all of them is with us right now, and that's Coach Jaicee Roden. So, Coach, I'm going to fire off a quick question at you. You've been coaching. You said your first job was 2013. So we talk, and you've heard when I was up at Ridgeline talk about this. It's been a couple years. Right around 2007, when the iPhone came out, kids that were born around that time are now the ones graduating, right? If you were born around 2007-ish, you're the recent or current or upcoming graduation or graduates. And a book that we refer to often, and especially for athletes, called iGen, the I generation, is talking about that group. The kids born with iPhones already in the world, and iPads and iPods and Instagram and Twitter and TikTok and Facebook and Snapchat. All this stuff has come since 2007. So these kids don't know any different. And this doctor in the book goes on to talk about the differences in the current and recent graduating classes versus graduating classes of 20, 30, 40 years ago, and all sorts of different social sort of tests, just questions and tests and habits and things that they do. I know as a coach who's been coaching for longer than 2013, I'm quite a bit older than you, but having been in coaching and in business with athletes in several different sports, including volleyball, that it's different coaching kids now than it used to be. I was curious if you could maybe speak to that. What have you noticed a difference in in some ways good too? I don't mean this to come across like a lot of old timers do, that this generation is negative, say negative things about them. There's a lot of really good. In fact, most of it is good. But in the case of mental toughness and resiliency and being coached hard, some of those things, I've noticed it's a little harder now. I'm getting used to it, but it's different than it used to be. So when you were first starting out or playing yourself in 2013, when you first got your coaching job versus now 12 years later, have you noticed any difference in the way that you coach or in the way parents act now versus, 12, 13, 14 years ago?
Yeah, for sure. It's interesting because my first job at Corner Canyon, I was fresh out of college, and going from college back into a high school gym was a really hard challenge for me. I was run out of that program because parents and I didn't connect, and the kids, I had come from maximum commitment, max effort, no excuses. Like your job was on the line. And so I actually got to ask myself this question 12 years ago when I left Corner Canyon and went to Mountain View. And I think the kids, they just have bigger battles with social media now. And one of the things that I really try to do is connect with the kids and just figure out what it is what motivates them or what makes them want to be here. And the longer I go coaching, the less clear that is for the kids. It seems that it's not as clear as, well, I like it, or it's fun, or I want to get a scholarship. It's not as clear. They're not as sure as why they do things. Which obviously that clarity of mind is really important when you put that commitment and that time forth. So, but I think I know that in The Fearless Mind, Craig Manning talks about high performance, and one of those factors is eliminating distractions. And that good performers or performers in general will have, their potential plus their training. And high performers are going to have their potential, their God-given ability, plus their mental and physical training, and minus the distractions. And the elimination of distractions, I think, is really, really important. And so those that are elite probably have a better relationship with eliminating distractions, in my opinion.
Yeah. Yeah, and Dr. Manning, when he talks about that in The Fearless Mind, is also goes into that equation you just gave is what then can lead to the distraction piece. If too many distractions are in that equation, is what leads to what he called the trap of mediocrity.
Right.
Right, where you get caught in that trap, and it's okay to be okay. And I just had a conversation with boys that I coach about this just late last week, Friday or Saturday last week, and it was you get an A- or you get a B+. Okay, that's good. You're probably not going to get a lot of hassle from anybody if you're getting A- and B+, but you're capable of getting an A. Or maybe you're only required to get a B or a B+, or only required to get a 2.0, according to the school system, right, to be eligible. So when you get a 3.2, everybody says, hey, good job, right? But that's easy then to get caught with, well, why don't you get a 4.0? And what you just said, I think we actually could talk about this for a minute. What you just said, that distraction piece is the key ingredient, I think, to that, right? They have the potential and they're getting the training the same training. I think training is different in school and maybe even at home with parents, what they do with you and how they help you grow up. But you have a teacher that's there working with all the students. But that distraction piece is so important. It's sending kids this way or that way. And, becoming high performers in whether that's athletics, whether that's business, whether that's, school. Shad, you're in the education world as well, have been for your career in teaching and finding the best ways to reach kids. What do you guys find in that distraction piece, and how's that changed, since you first started 20 whatever years ago?
Yeah. I mean, it first of all, it takes a big toll on teachers. I think we should be, I mean, our teachers right now, some of them are like, wow, I don't know if I signed up for this, right?
Yeah.
Just the managing of that. But as you two were sharing your thoughts there, have you guys heard that kind of the parable? I don't know what to call it, but the eagle and the chickens. You know, there's this eagle that's walking around with the chickens and never even thinks it can fly because it doesn't see the chickens fly, right? And as you think of the iGen generation and them growing up, and cell phones and distraction is just literally been part of their life forever. I mean, parents, when they want to calm a kid down in an airport or a restaurant or whatever, what do? Right? I mean, they take their phone, they hand it to the kid, and like it just that's the way they've coped. That's the way they've done everything that they've done. And so we have a bunch of kids that are just like a fish swimming in water that doesn't even know there's something outside of that water. And if they would just realize that, man, just put that thing down and get a plan, even if it's hard, like make a plan. George Niang talked about that with us just a few weeks ago, Dustin, where he said, man, when I saw these great people that had a plan, you know, the Steph Currys, the Klay Thompsons, the Draymond Green, they were the same place every day. They had a system. And he realized, I don't have a system. And I'm just thinking, like, a lot of these kids they just need to break out of that atmosphere of distraction that they've been raised in. And one way to do that might be to come up with a very intentional plan. I'm going to do this from this time to this time. Then I'm going to study from this time to this time. And if they will just take that one little bit of advice and break out of the distraction and detox from it a little bit. And I think our governor in our state here in Utah is really helping kids do that. Most schools have a very strict cell phone policy now, and kids aren't allowed to have them in class. And that might be part of that, just to realize, to break away and to realize what you can accomplish if you are not distracted. Yeah. And so we're seeing it. But for me, it creates a great opportunity for kids and parents and coaches who are listening to this to be intentional. If they'll just say, hey, do you realize you could fly if you want to? Yeah. That you don't have to be down here just pecking at the ground. If you're willing to break free from distraction and be intentional about your life, you could soar. And maybe the good news is there's not many people willing to do that. So if you're just willing to do that one simple thing, you can accomplish so much right now. And we see that in athletes, in academics, socially. We see it all over. Those who are willing to break free, get off the ground, and fly free of distraction are going to have a way different life than those who aren't willing to do that.
Yeah. So, Coach, how have you helped your athletes break away from distraction so that they can be high performers?
Yeah, so I do a pretty lofty sports psych program. My background is in behavior, emphasis in psychology. And so I don't know how people coach without a background in behavior and psychology, because I seriously just watch my players and it's obvious, right? People experience, we have good intentions, but people experience our behaviors, not our intentions. And so then when behavior shines through for good, for bad, for ugly, it really is a good demonstration of what's going on in the kid's mind, or what's going on in their life that maybe we're not quite sure about. And so we do in our sports psych, we talk a lot about distractions, and we talk about what those are and what they include. And sometimes the good things are still distractions. You know, like if they can pinpoint exactly when somebody walks in the gym for a game, that's not necessarily a bad thing, right? A supporter that they love, who is there to just be a part of their success and their story. But the fact that we're aware of the exact moment that they're there is also a moment to kind of take us out of an opportunity to get in the zone, or to stay focused in what's going on. So we identify lots of distractions, and it's interesting because obviously social media is a big one. Obviously, breaking up with a boyfriend or something at home, those are the easy identifiers, but it's not, we don't even know that we're our own distraction, that our own hypercriticism and our own perfectionism is some of what distracts us. And so even that kind of devil on your shoulder can be a form of distraction. So we talk a lot about how distraction comes about and how it presents itself for each individual. And then we present strategies and encourage them to work through some strategies. We actually use Craig Manning's high performance journal, and that helps them stay focused on task orientation versus ego orientation. And so it's just, I think it's just about strategizing, right? I think it's, the X's and O's. If we're going to be the best on the court physically, then we also need to be the best on the court mentally and emotionally. And if I'm aware that if the matchup physically makes a lot of sense or it doesn't make sense, then we're going to put a scouting report together that will put us with our best foot forward. And I think it's the exact same thing. Coaches could. We can really advance our athletes and our training when we're aware of the matchups that they're up against mentally and physically. And I know in female volleyball, a lot of that is our own self-identity and distraction of feelings of inadequacy. I can't tell you how many of my girls feel like it's not good or it's not good enough. And so we talk about, good is never bad. Good is never bad, but good is never great either.
Yeah.
And so if we're stuck in good, then good isn't bad. Like good will never be bad. They're opposites for reasons. And I think so many times the kids align good with bad. If it's just good, therefore it's never good enough. And then we get to this perfectionist mentality of I'm not good enough, or I'm not doing this, or this wasn't exactly the way that I want it to be. Therefore, even though it was good, it's bad. And so we talk that good is never bad and good is never great. And so if we want to be great, then good might be the enemy of that. And if we don't want to be bad, then good is a really great option too. But I think a lot of that distraction is just in our own minds, how we're thinking and how we're comparing and how we're criticizing and how, we want to be perfect when in all reality, perfection is not an option. And so we're setting goals on things that don't exist.
Can you go into a little bit? I'm curious. You said task-oriented instead of ego-oriented.
Yeah.
Can you elaborate on that for those who aren't familiar with that?
Yeah, for sure. So task completion is we know what each role is on our court. So for us, like a setter's tasks are to do X, Y, and Z. And those tasks, when those tasks are complete, then that role is put in a place to be successful, right? The person in that role is put in a place to be successful. I love task orientation because players come and go in programs and players bring their individual strengths and their individual weaknesses, but the role essentially stays the same. And so the team can't function without a setter. In football, it's our quarterback. Our setter is equivalent to our quarterback. And identifying tasks, it's like we always talk about a chore chart. We put it in chore charts. So growing up, right, when mom went to work, when dad went to work, it was, you come home from school and these are your chores, and your chores need to be done by a certain time. And they also need to pass mom's inspection. That's kind of what needs to happen. And so we talk about our tasks as a chore chart, as a task chart. When I'm a setter, no matter how I'm feeling, no matter what's happened throughout my day, no matter whatever those feelings are, I need to function above those feelings and complete my task. My role is complete when the tasks are done. And the tasks need to meet the expectation of mom's inspection, right? And so we really have a good, clear idea of what those tasks are for each position. But ego orientation is the opposite of that. It's what self-serving. It's the outcomes. It's me. It's mine. It's how it benefits me. Or oftentimes an ego orientation can come across as if I don't do this, then this, and it's self-serving, or it's serving an ego or an outcome, versus this is my task and this is my job to get this done, aside from whatever is or isn't going to happen after this. It doesn't change the task. So does that make sense? Okay.
I'm taking notes over here. That's why I've been here writing. You've said 3 or 4 things where I'm like, ooh, I like that. Ooh, I like that.
Yeah.
Yes, it makes sense. I actually, as I was writing down, one of the things you said is Shad was asking you that question. I kind of bumped into a question. So I have, good is never bad, but good is never great, which I love that. Players identify good with bad, but that they're opposites. Good enough then can become almost, so that's why I wanted to ask you. So not good enough, how do it almost becomes a block in progression, because I'm never going to be good enough, but you're good, right? Which how do you get somebody out of that mindset of not being so negative on themselves, because they are good, right? They're not bad. But how do you ever get somebody to not think I'm not good enough if they're not great? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Like,
and it's a good question. Let me know when we find the answer.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. That's
no. It's.
Yeah.
It's
I've been thinking like, yeah, because you don't want to tell an athlete, hey, but you're really, really good, and that's okay, because the next thing out of your mouth is going to be all the, well, good is the enemy of great, and we want to be great, and we want to be elite, and we want to, okay, coach, but I'm good. So is that bad? No, but yes, because I want you to be great.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I think I love a gym full of empowered athletes. That is one of the reasons why I stay in high school coaching. Why I ever got into it, I'm not really quite sure. It's hard.
Yeah, I hear you.
And it's so rewarding, but it is hard. And sometimes it's not fun, but it's rewarding. The difference between fun and rewarding, right? And I feel like there are so many questions that the kids that they come with, and I feel like creating and helping them navigate their own dialogue. I think that if we can change our language, then we can change our mindset, and if we change our mindset, then we can change our behavior. So I think if we have kids that are showing, behaviors, I was always taught to train behaviors, not outcomes. And so if I have a super hot-headed athlete, which personally I love because they're feisty, but the behavior isn't necessarily a successful behavior. So now I need to take this feisty kid who is all about themselves, a lot of ego orientation, and give them strategies and help create a dialogue that's successful for them. I think one of the most powerful things that coaches can do now is I'm not trying to get kids to be me, right? I grew up in a different generation. I was, I'm not trying to get them to be me. However, connecting with them and figuring out what the voice in their head, or the voices in their head is saying, and then helping them navigate what that sounds like, what that dialogue sounds like. So again, the not good enough. Well, that if you've seen the TED Talk, like The Power of Yet, not good enough could actually also, if you do a cognitive restructure, that could also be, well, I'm not there yet. And what that does to the mind is it completely changes it. However, it's the same message, right? I'm not good enough versus like I'm working and I'm not there yet.
Yeah.
I think that restructuring how we speak to ourselves and how we speak to others, I think is really important for this generation, so that good isn't bad, that good is still good, and good can become great. Excuse me. Good can become great with the right thought process, with the right physical process, with the right emotional process. But all of that requires work and coachability and restructuring, whether that's something fundamentally or whether that's something, internal that we've got to think through and talk about and, have those hard conversations.
Yeah.
Those leaders in my life that have made a big difference, it's like they have this great ability to help me feel appreciated where I'm at, but to not settle for that. So, I'm told, hey, that's great. You have improved so much in this area, and I know you could be better. And I am so pleased with the progress that you've made. And when we focus on direction instead of destination, like, you are improving so much there. I don't know how we do that. I love what you're saying, Jaicee, about you need to come up with a communication plan with each young person that fits for them, right? I mean, Dustin, you coach hundreds of kids, and some of them you could grab them by the face mask and pull them in and yell at them, and they're like, that lights them on fire. And another kid that destroys them. And one kid actually needs that, and another kid that would be detrimental to their performance. And that's a challenge of maybe the adventure of being a coach, right? Is figuring that out. But I think that if we could ask ourselves the question, how can I help this young person see the progress they've made and how good their direction is without settling? Love them where they are, but don't settle for that. Because if we settle for that, I think that's when good can become the enemy of great, is when we settle for good. We could appreciate good without settling for good.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
No, Shad, Jaicee, both of you said something that I want to kind of touch on. Shad, you started off what you just said and then you ended with it again, is you used the word appreciate. There's another great TED Talk on that word, appreciation versus recognition. When you recognize somebody did something well, you give them an award or something, it's different than telling them that you appreciate who they are as a person. Right? That the work ethic they put into becoming this, and you appreciate that. You appreciate them, and their commitment is different than I recognize that you've lifted weights really hard. I recognize that. I see that you're bigger. Good job. It's different than pulling them aside and saying, I want you to know I appreciate all the time and effort you've put in to getting bigger and to getting stronger. I know how hard that is, and I appreciate what you've committed to. But anyway, it goes. But in the realm of coaching, I think, Shad, our players knowing, and kids as parents knowing that we appreciate them. We appreciate what they're giving, what they are doing, whether they're at good or they're at great or they're wherever they're at. If they're trying, and that we recognize that by then telling them not just recognizing it, but that we appreciate what they're doing to try to fit in, to try to know their role and do their part. And Jaicee, to your part, going back to what we were talking about on the, how do you get them from good to great and not discourage them if they're not good enough, and yet, which I love. My favorite coach is Nick Saban. And Nick Saban, I just shared this not long ago on social media about, or maybe it's to my players, but a talk he gave where he talked about his coach's job is to find their breaking point. So we need to find out what breaks you, how far we can get you before you break. And that's hard. And for a lot of kids, they tap out really quick. Just that comment would cause some kids to tap out, that someone might try to break you, right? To push you to a point. So as we were thinking that, I wonder, well, that might be an interesting way of looking at it. So I'm not good enough. Well, you haven't reached your breaking point yet. I'm trying to push you. You can go further. You haven't broke yet. You got more to go. We're just starting. I got a lot more to get out of you. You're not done yet. You haven't broke yet. Yeah, you're not there. You're not there yet. It's because you haven't broke yet. You got a long way to go before you're going to break. And when you get close to that point, knowing you and appreciating how you are as a person, you'll be great. Because and then remind them, because you have this and you have this and you have this. And I know that you're young and you're learning and you're going to be great eventually, to your point, Coach, about yet. And I appreciate, to your point, Shad, that you recognize that and that you want to do the work, because really that's eyes up, do the work. Eyes up is recognizing, being aware, recognizing I'm not there yet, recognition of that, right? And then turning that into, well, then now go do the work so you can get there. That's eyes up, do the work.
No, Dustin, your thought about appreciate, and, to emphasize what Shad was saying, I recently heard, I'm going to completely ruin it, but
okay.
something along the lines of gratitude puts us in the present. And so the difference between recognition and appreciation might be living in the moment. And so if I'm grateful, then it puts me in my here and my now, which is also eliminating distractions, right? It's, putting your eyes up and doing the work. I'm not anywhere else. I'm where my own 2 feet are. And I'm there and I'm expressing appreciation or gratitude, or maybe I'm just even identifying that, which actually puts you in your present, which is really powerful. There's a lot of research that says great things come with living in your moment. I love when Craig Manning talks about, fear is in the future. And anything that we're fearful of exists in our future. It hasn't come about yet. And I put that to the test all the time. Like, okay, I'm scared. Oh yeah, well that hasn't happened yet. Could it happen in a split second? Yes, but it's not happening right now in this second. We're in this moment. So I love that, because I think as we're talking about eliminating distractions to get to high performance, I think gratitude is a really great principle of that can just create a more wholesome, well-rounded athlete who appreciates what's in front of them, who appreciates opportunities to get better, who is excited and grateful for ways to overcome challenges, even though the challenge, we're not quite sure how it sees through or what we're going to do coming ahead. That might be a little bit of fear, Mm-hmm. However, I can be grateful for that experience and to learn that experience right now, which puts me back in my present.
Yeah, I love that. Shad, she keep going there. She said something about gratitude that we could go on for another 20 minutes on that. So I'm actually going to put my notes down. I saw something when you said that. I grabbed an NPR TED Talk on gratitude that I'm like, oh, I know where she's going. This is going to, and then I'm like, oh man, that's another podcast interview.
Yeah.
We'll have to do it again, Coach.
One of the things I was going to say, Dustin, is I've shared maybe this analogy before. I don't know, but I think sometimes it's good. Like when you think of a fruit tree, right? We plant fruit trees, and planting a fruit tree, digging the holes and all of that stuff, it could be pretty grueling work. And then the first couple of years, you really don't get anything off of a fruit tree, a peach tree, for example. You plant it and you prune it, and 3 years later, you're going to have peaches. But one of the things that I've noticed about process, like a peach tree, is when we're digging that hole, we have to remember that the day's going to come when I'm going to pluck the peach, right? And I'm going to come in on a fall day and have some peaches and cream, and it's going to be amazing. And I think sometimes we don't talk enough about peaches as we're doing the digging as coaches, right? So we could come into a young person who's really trying to improve and really trying to get better. And when all we care about is peaches, right? And if we're going and we're just saying, no peaches yet, I don't see any peaches, you keep digging, you keep pruning, I don't see any peaches, right? They could be looking around going like, oh my gosh, all I do is dig, right? Versus coaches that seem to inspire and mentors that seem to inspire, they seem to have this ability to encourage the digging because of the peach, right? Like, look, I know you're digging right now. I know you don't see it right now, but the day's going to come when you're going to come out here on a beautiful fall day, pluck a peach. It's going to be delicious. It's going to be awesome. And I just noticed that people who try to inspire digging versus eating peaches. If we want to inspire people, there's that famous quote that if you want someone to build a boat, don't talk about construction and sawing and nails and hammering. Just help them long for the adventure and immensity of the sea. And so in what we're saying here, I think those are the thoughts that it's spurning, is as we try to help kids feel good about where they're at and what they're doing and not settling for it, we could appreciate the digging and the pruning and talk about their future and the peaches that are going to come into their life because they're doing what they're doing right now. And I think that might help strike a balance between not settling for good but talking about greatness, appreciating good work, but not settling for goodness.
Yeah.
Greatness is peaches, but we got to dig to get there, you know?
Well, I think aligning that to something bigger than the game, right? And so, like,
Yeah.
I think that peaches serve a role as a peach farmer and probably a lot of other areas of life. And so I think aligning athletics for these kids, you know, for me, all I wanted to do was play ball, right? And I went to college not to go get my education, but to play ball. And then my education became the benefit of it, right? And I didn't learn that until later on in my career where I was like, wait, I've got this is all mixed up. This is completely backwards. And for me, that was okay. The way that I grew up, that was okay. I think these kids need to see how that serves them as a person. You know, we talk in special ed, we talk about person first language. It's a student with a disability. It's not a disabled student. And so I think the same, if we were to apply that to every part of our life, if we were to see people first over athletes, or if we were to see people first and then potential, if we were to see people first and then put the training in, I think that gives the kid a different idea of how athletics can serve their life, right? That's what, especially for athletes, is it's a way to enhance leadership. It's a way to enhance quality of life. It's life skills. And I think that speaking to the kids about how digging serves them in life, there's going to be a time they're going to need to dig again. Right? They might have a beautiful peach tree that is, you know, full of peaches, and they're able to share with all their neighbors and text their neighbors. I love it when that happens. And my neighbors are like, hey, we have all this produce. I'm like, sweet, now I don't have to garden, right? But it doesn't change the fact.
You're like me. You like having neighbors that like peach digging.
Exactly. Exactly. I'll dig somewhere else, but you got the peaches. No, but I think aligning that to how it serves these kids, these people in athletics. Athletics is what we do, right? It's not who we are. And so helping them understand that digging right now looks like this. And that's a great job digging. And later on in life, we're going to need to dig again. I shared with you guys earlier that I lost a child 10 years ago.
Yeah.
And I didn't realize, you know, he was born with a rare genetic disease that my husband and I happen to be. Perfection isn't necessarily something that we can attain, but my husband and I are a perfect bad combination for genetics. And it gave us a terminally ill child. And with that, I got to care for a dying child for 9 months. He lived for 9 months. And what I didn't realize then was we lived in Orem at the time, and my son was at Primary Children's. And what I didn't realize then is that I needed to get up and go to early mornings with my son, right? I needed to get myself up and get ready and wake up really early in the morning. Otherwise, I would miss time with him. What I didn't realize is that digging had been done before, but in athletic. And so when it required me to dig again in a different environment, in a much harder environment, I already knew how to dig. I already knew how to get in there and really manage the hard work. What did it change that it was hard? No. Did I like it? No, not at all. But I knew how to do it. I was able to refine that skill of the digging, even though athletically I had accomplished a Division I career. I should have gone and played professionally. And so athletically, I had my peaches. But then 3 years later, after I graduated, I needed to start digging again with a sick child and an environment of life that I did not know how to navigate. It was unknown and foreign to me again, but the skills of digging came from athletics. And so much of that was familiar to me that I actually remember saying to my mom, I'm better at this than I thought. I'm doing a better job than I thought I was. And lots of that was, you know, lots of prayers and lots of divine intervention. But the other thing was I had created a work ethic that required me to dig. And I knew how to do that again at the very basic level. And 3 years after I graduated with a successful career, I was able to go back and dig. And that was super rewarding the second time around in a much more difficult environment.
Yeah, that's I think that's a good spot to probably end right there. You're both of your last two comments there. We went a totally different direction than we intended on talking. We didn't even get to the questions that I had emailed you about, but I think that was a good discussion, and ending on that idea of digging and understanding that the prize, so to speak, Shad, or why we're digging, right? Having a why and having some hope that this digging is going to actually bring us something of value, and inspiring that. And then, like you said, Jaicee, understanding that it teaches us that we can do it, that we can dig, and maybe I'll just end with this in the way that God looks at us, the way that we look at our kids, and the way that probably coaches look at their players, right? God sees us as we can become. And our parents, I think, we see our kids on what they can become. We understand it's going to be hard, and high school is going to be tough, and we see it. We know it's coming, but we know what they're going to become if they hang in there. And I think as coaches, good coaches, and if parents will let their coaches coach, and we see the players as what they can become. And we understand that there's certain things that have to happen in order for them to become that. They have to dig. You have to prune the tree. You have to be patient. It's not going to be immediate like the tree. They're going to have to go through not feeling good enough, but understand that you're not there yet. We haven't broken you yet. You still got more to go. You're still going to get better. Hey, we're going to keep pushing you. We appreciate you. We appreciate all you're doing, right? If we can tie all of that in, and then our athlete, our child, and I think, in the way that God looks at us, we'll all become, and our kids will become what they're capable of becoming, which might not be a Division I athlete, and it might not be the most successful businessman in the world or businesswoman or it might not be all that, but that they're going to at least max their potential. And that's what we want, is everybody to hit what they're capable of and max out and say, I reached what my very greatest, and wherever that puts me, it puts me, but I can know my tank is empty. I used it all up. I gave it all I had. And that's what sports teaches you. That's the digging, right? And so, well, Jaicee, thanks so much for hopping on with us. And thank you for being an advocate for Eyes Up, Do the Work. Before we end here, what does Eyes Up, Do the Work mean to you? And how could that help parents and athletes?
Yeah, I think about this a lot. So thank you guys for planting. I mean, I just love the simplicity of how it's said. And it just goes so far in just such few words. And I think that that's really, really powerful. It's also something that you can always be learning about. So right now, I probably wouldn't have said this a year ago, but right now, Eyes Up, Do the Work means put your phones down and get your eyes up and actually see people and communicate with people and make people feel good, feel seen and feel valued and problem solve, and, face your fears of being without your phone. But right now, I think Eyes Up, Do the Work requires like we talked about, an elimination of distraction. Put your phone away, leave it at home, turn it off at certain times of the day for an hour or 15 minutes. See your kids. My son, I told him, I was like, as soon as you feel like mommy's prioritizing the phone, he's 6, but I'm teaching him to use his words to help me know when he feels second to technology. Now it's a little different. I work a lot with technology and I need to be on my phone, but what that sounds like for my 6-year-old is, hey mom, can you put that down for a second? I need to talk to you. Or, hey mom, I feel like you like your phone more than me right now. And equipping the kids with an opportunity to communicate. And I also think doing that as adults. I tell my kids, we're on a 2-week challenge right now. I challenge my kids. A challenge is not required. But we're on a 2-week challenge of deleting social media. And I have some girls that were really excited about it, and some were like, I can't go without this, or I can't do this. And I think it's important that we keep our eyes up and do the work. Put your phones down.
Yeah. Stay focused.
Yeah.
Well, thanks again, Coach, for hopping on.
Thank you.
We'll cut this up and use a lot of this in a lot of different ways, and probably be asking you to hop on again with us. So
I'd be happy
thanks
to.
again.
Thanks for your time.
Yeah. Awesome.
Thank you.
And thanks everybody for joining us. Keep your eyes up. Do the work.
Thank you for joining the Especially for Athletes podcast. To learn more about Especially for Athletes organization, get a copy of our book, The Sportlight, or to bring our program to your team, school, business, or organization, visit us at especiallyforathletes.org.